Hello, everybody. Welcome to StraightA. Dawson here, back with another NFL week. NFL Power Rankings, Week 12 edition. So going into Week 12 and stuff. And thank you guys for the big support on in last week's video. There over 100 views, got a lot of attention. The boys even hopped on the train and started commenting a little bit of their opinions about my power rankings. Already, you see on screen, you can already kind of take it in yourself about who's where, blah blah, who moved up, who moved down. Beside the point. But since the video got so much popularity last time, I wanted to make sure I address a couple of the points of contention, which valid. And I do have a couple points to make on this tier list as well, or not tier list, but like this power rankings as well. The boys are gonna freaking riot me in the comments about me saying tier list there. Beside the point. So thank you either way for the support on that video, and I love making these, and I'm learning more and more about how I can be more fair, how I can be better about the things in this power rankings. So we're going to just kind of jump into it and see. It's going to be a little bit of wonky one because I have a couple different things I have to pull up to like read myself. So you're going to see my background. It's going to get a little weird about exactly how it's going to record. So you're going to see my background, stuff like that. But don't worry about it. Either way, first of all, I did want to address a couple of comments. First one by Connor Klein 585. It's going to be on screen. Comment's going to be on screen. And by the way, any points of contention, this is not me stating that I hate contention. I'm disputing and debating with everybody because I actually believe there's some valid points being made here, and I actually think this is a very interesting comment. So just because I bring it up and I'm disputing it in some way doesn't mean I disagree with it or I think that person's wrong per se. I just think that there's different points of view that need to be taken into account, and I really appreciate the comments and the discourse that we're able to have. I know the boys jumped in on this comment too and said, hey, we're going to ride with you the whole day because we've been saying the Texans forever or whatever. So beside the point, on screen now, the comments from Connor Klein 585. Thank you for commenting. The Texans at 23 while being 5-4 is crazy, but the fact that you have them below every single team they've beaten is somehow crazier, lol. And that's actually really fascinating because I was like, well, they really were below every team they've beaten at that point because they didn't beat the Cardinals at that point. So they beat the Jags, the Steelers, the Saints, the Bucks, and the Bengals, and all of those teams are kind of were all above them at that last point. Kind of to talk about it from last week's point of view. They beat the Jags, divisional opponent. Jags are really good. I'm not going to really talk about that one too much. The Steelers. Yeah, okay, arguable. I'm not going to say the Steelers are the best team in the NFL. I think they have a pretty good, solid defense, which kind of puts it above a little bit. I think the Steelers consistently before this last week, it's kind of arguable now, I think so, more so. The Steelers defense has been one of the most consistent things in the NFL, just in terms of how well they're playing and how well they're able to keep up with other teams, even how high-octane offenses. And so that's why I kind of give a little bit of credit to the Steelers on defense. Offense, they're not awful. The run game's fine enough, and Kenny Pickett isn't a turnover machine as much, so they're suitable. So I think there's a contention point to be made there. Steelers have been playing very high level. Then again, Texans have too. So if you think the Texans are better than the Steelers, I'm not going to dispute you too much on that one, but it's still worth bringing up. Last week, of course, I did think the Saints were, I don't know, maybe I still had some hope in the Saints. I think it is a valid point to bring up that the Texans are better than the Saints, and I think it's also valid to bring up Texans are better than the Bucks, both before this last week and this week. The Saints, I'm not going to dispute that too much because I do have the Texans above the Saints this week, just because I did kind of evaluate that and looked at it. Texans have been really, really building up stuff. Well, Saints have been very inconsistent. So, beside the point, we'll get to that here in a minute. The Bucks, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to dispute that one too. The Bucks start off very high in my power rankings just because of how well they placed last year. They haven't looked awful. Honestly, across the board, I think I like the Bucks better than the Texans in terms of their roster. Obviously, in terms of potential in the future of the teams, I love the Texans way more. But currently, I think the offensive line's better. The quarterback, I mean, it's debatable. Baker's more a veteran instinct who's able to be more consistent in play. C.J. Stroud's a rookie who's able to show big splashes. It kind of be, it can be balanced. The secondary, both are not very good, but maybe Bucks have a slightly better one. And defensive line, it's really, again, it's kind of like the QB conversation. I think the Bucks have a more consistent defensive line, while the Texans have a splashy one. They have a young talent that are ready to go. So I'm not going to dispute that one too much, but I just want to bring it up. And the Bengals, I'm not going to talk about that one either because the Bengals, one of the best teams, or were one of the best teams last week. Obviously, without Joe Burrow, we'll see how that falls. We'll talk about them here in a little bit. And then, of course, they beat the Cardinals, who they're obviously above. So, reevaluating that, Connor Klein has a really good point. Honestly, I kind of agree with you. It's kind of crazy that they were below all the teams that they've beaten. So, I will give you that. And them at 23, I guess it's the way I've done these power rankings. And this week, I kind of gave myself a little bit, like I made myself boost up the Texans just a little bit. Because I think my power rankings had a flaw with some of these teams, where I think some teams have ended up misplaced, and they should be climbing more than they have been. Because I guess I didn't believe in the Texans for their first 3 wins, so they didn't really get credit for those wins. They kind of moved up a little bit, but I didn't see the potential they had until they started putting up stats. And that's kind of on me. I need to kind of readjust how I think about these things and maybe more fairly assess each team on more common ground. But I just also want to give credit to, if the Eagles start off 0-1 and the, Panthers started off 1-0, I'm not going to put the Eagles below the Panthers at that point. So it's a balancing act of me figuring things out with power rankings. So good points either way. But yeah, no, I agree. Maybe it was a little bit aggressive, and I do think they're a top 20 team. I do genuinely believe they're a top 20 team. Honestly, arguably top 16 team. I believe there was another comment that was in a reply chain that was about I think they're at least a top 16 team, which I could see that. I think it's really hard to break that top 14 mold. I think the Chargers are going to make it a little bit easier, but I think I'd agree that the Texans could probably easily go above each of 15 through 18. I won't argue that one too much either. I think it's very easy for the Texans to move up in this next category just because those teams are just not very good. Or in terms of they're just, I don't know, they're weird. We'll get to that point a little bit later. But we do have another comment on screen now. Hockey Hamrin, thank you for commenting. Also, Green Bay at 17 seems really high. They are a bad team. And this one, again, appreciate the comment. And I get the statement. I get the statement of they are a bad team. Because their record is 4-6. So they're not very good in terms of their record, or they haven't really shown anything big and flashy. The best way I can kind of interpret this for me is I look at the Packers and I'm looking at the teams around them, at the current moment. If you're looking at the screen now, I look at the Steelers. I think they're on the same level as the Steelers in a lot of regards. They're on the same level as the Bucks and Rams to me. And I think they're an edge above the Commanders, Saints, Broncos, even Jets, Colts. I don't think you can say the Packers are worse than many of those teams. At least I would say almost everybody should agree that the fourth column, the Packers should be better than, just because I think they have enough splash to maybe put that edge out. Their defense is still low-key one of the top 10 defense in the NFL, maybe more in the 11-12 range, but they're still a really good defense. And their run game is really the offensive thing that hurts them. It puts pressure more on Jordan Love, and Jordan Love has splashes. 3-4 weeks ago, he was doing decently well. Beginning of the season, he was doing decently well. He just has these stretches of 1 to 2 weeks where he does really well, and then he craps over for the next 3 weeks, and he kind of resumes it again. And I don't know how to take that, because I think the Packers as a team have built a really well, a well team around him, and are doing well enough to just keep them in that kind of hunt. So again, I'm not going to argue about putting them below the Texans or the Rams, Bucks, or Steelers. If you say that they're below all those teams, I probably wouldn't fight you too much on those. Commanders, Saints, Broncos, Jets, Colts, that's when we kind of get into the more of my debatable terms. I still think they're easily a top 20 team. I still think they're probably top half. I generally do. I like the Packers. I'm not a Packers fan either. I just kind of like the look of the Packers. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's the potential they have. And again, that can go into the Texans kind of conversation. I like the potential the Packers have and what they've shown. And that's why I'm rewarding the Texans more now, because they have now proven and shown a lot of this stuff now. So, it's a very valid point. So thank you, Hockey, for commenting and bringing that up. I don't know if I would say they're a bad team, but I do think that if you're not in the top 14, you're not the best team. And I've said that on multiple different tier lists where I just don't know if you're a good team if you're outside the top 14. Obviously, there's teams that are emerging like the Broncos and the Texans who are very good. But outside of that, I'm looking at the other teams. I'm not really feeling too hot about any of them. Beside the point, I'm going to go quickly through these power rankings. I want to get to other videos and edit all those. But 32, 31, 30. No, nothing really changes. Kyler is giving me a little bit of hope in the Cardinals, so they might go up a little bit more, but we'll see that as it goes. Panthers still are one of the worst teams, the worst team. The Bears have splashes, but they still just can't eke out a victory, even in a divisional rivalry in the Lions. 29, the Patriots had a bye week, but Giants actually had a good week, so congratulations, Giants. You move up a little bit. These teams are so bad at this point. I'm just not like, eh. Now, this is the conceding part. I will say before you, I know already people are gonna be in the comments probably commenting the next thing about the Falcons. I don't know how the Falcons end up this low. I'll be fully honest with you. This kind of ended up down this low. I think last week really hurt them because they had an awful week. They haven't looked good in forever. I'll be honest with you. I kind of look back through their stats saying, okay, what have I missed? And like, they have good quarterback stat lines. Everything else fucking sucks. Arthur Smith does not know how to use that team. And I do not like the Falcons this year. I think there's some people that do like the Falcons and give them higher grades than they should. I'm not a Falcons guy. And I guess maybe mentally I have just degraded them more and more. And they've gotten to this point. Not going to say it's the most valid take I have in the world, but I don't hate it. They could probably be arguably above, like in the 26 comfortably. And then you could start debating about the Raiders, Colts, Jets, Broncos, maybe. But I think they're comfortably below the Saints, even though I believe the Saints actually... Are the Saints leading the division? Pretty sure the Saints are leading the division currently. But either way, I just think the Falcons are not very good. Bijan's fun to watch, and their offense is cool, I guess. But their defense has been really lackluster. I know they're like the secondary's fine, but at what point are we going to give the secondary with so much talent, not breathing room anymore after all the what's called the passes they're letting up? Beside the point, that one y'all can give me a little bit of flack on because I'm not too sure exactly how they ended up there, but I don't exactly hate it. Beside the point. Tennessee Titans, they got -3 here. It's just with so many, this area has been fluctuating so much. Of course, the Broncos and Texans moved up a lot, so that hurt the Titans a little bit there. But the Giants also did well this week. I can't crap on them. I mean, they beat a decent team. They did put up good stats, and they had bye week teams right in front of them, so it was easy for them to move up. But Titans, Will Levis is just not impressed. He's had a couple weeks to do it. Derrick Henry's been neutralized for 2 weeks in a row, and defense for the Titans does not look good. Again, it was an unfortunate situation where, again, the Titans were caught up in a time when other teams were moving up very much, and they just got caught up in a -3, probably more appropriately -2, but I don't hate the 27 spot for the Titans currently. The Giants, again, good week, fine week, not moving up anymore, really. The Raiders and Giants still probably have a decent gap in between them, roughly. But, I mean, I still have some tinge of, maybe the Giants are not bad, because I still have that bet that's on the line for them going 7-10, likely still going to go 6-11 or below. But there's just a slight part of me that thinks maybe Tommy DeVito can put something together, but the Commanders made them look really good. And that's a whole other topic conversation, how they didn't move, I'll be honest, because I don't know. Beside the point, Raiders right above them. I mean, they lost to the Dolphins 13-20. I didn't hate their game, though. So I'm okay with them actually going up one. It just feels fine. The Colts -2 bye week, but again, Texans, Broncos moved up so much, and we'll get to that in a second. Jets -4, awful week. I think it's finally solidified. The Jets are probably, going on the downhill, not making the playoffs type hill. And I think I'm finally agreeing with that and moving on from it. Again, -4 is maybe a little aggressive than maybe I ought to give, but -4 is also not the worst. 23 spot is fine. Broncos, of course, you guys know I'm a little biased to the Broncos, but I generally believe they're at least in the top 24 at this point. They have won 4 straight games, obviously with a bye week in between, but they've beaten some good teams. The Bills and Chiefs, again, teams that have been struggling, but they're good teams nonetheless, and they beat them. The Vikings was a really tough game from 2 emerging, momentum teams. Broncos eking it out a victory and looking decently good. And they put up good stat lines across those games for both defense and offense. So I don't hate the Broncos going up a lot lately because they were getting crapped on before. And I waited a couple weeks. Their 2 wins, I think they moved up 1 probably, or 2 maybe. But then in the last couple weeks, I've started giving them their flowers just like the Texans. So that's how it's kind of worked. The Saints at 21, they're on the bye week, and I don't, whatever, I guess. I don't know what to really say. Commanders, kind of same case there. I think the only reason the Commanders and Saints stayed the same is because the Broncos already moved up so much. Jets dropped down. Texans moved up them. So there's no teams around them that really are fluctuating. So, there's really no movement there. So Commanders shouldn't probably be in top 20, but I can't really move them justifiably without just making a plain old statement that they deserve. Oh, wait, yeah, no, they didn't have a bye. I know what it was. The Commanders lost to the Giants. That's right, I just said that. The Commanders lost to the Giants. But for some reason, they put up some of the best stat lines outside of interceptions that I've seen. 9 sacks. Granted, it was a bad O-line for the Giants. And lost by 2 scores to the Giants. All of this is very weird. See me not understanding this. And so I decided, that's right, I decided that I wouldn't move them. Just gave me so much. I don't know how to feel about the Commanders anymore. I don't. 20, sure. They could be at 32 for all I care. I don't know. I don't know about the Commanders anymore. Beside the point, I don't care enough about the Commanders to even worry about them being 20 or 24 or whatever, to be honest with you. They're probably slightly above the Saints, I guess, and I probably still like them slightly above the Broncos. So I don't hate the spot, but I don't love it either. Honest to God, I probably could keep them in that fourth column and be fine. All right, now we got to quickly move. Of course, Texans, y'all been crapping on it. We talked about Texans a little bit already, but Texans have been really doing well. Of course, +4 for a Cardinals win probably isn't the best thing in the world, but I gave them a little extra nudge because I'm like, I need to give them that. But honestly, they kind of deserved it this week anyway because Commanders and Saints really didn't move, so you easily moved above them, easily moved above the Colts. Jets were dropping down. So, it was kind of an easy +4 anyway, and I gave them a little extra nudge to put them kind of closer to that top 15 area because it's Steelers, Packers, Bucks, and Rams are all kind of in the same area, so they could easily kind of jump up more. Beside the point, Texans have looked good. The only reason why I'm not going to say that I'm confident in saying they are a top 16 team, and this is why I kind of like the 19th spot for them currently, maybe a little bit higher, but they're young, and there's just something about it that I just haven't seen from them yet. And obviously, I'm eating my words. As more and more they win, I'm eating my words. But something's just holding me back from them. CJ Stroud looks good. The defense looks good. The weapons that they have, I wouldn't even call them weapons before the season, but I do believe they're kind of weapons now. So I'm starting to believe in them a little bit, but I'm not ready to get on the full train yet. I love the Texans, I really do, but hesitantly. Beside the point, I got to roll through these. I've been kind of slowing down a little bit. Rams, sure they won. Fine stats, cool. Bucks, -1. They got destroyed by the 49ers. They really don't. I don't really dropped them down quite a bit in my kind of like mental tier list here, but like they didn't quite move below the Rams, or I didn't want to move the Texans that much more. So Bucks are kind of in this weird spot where like they're kind of transitioning. If they lose on their game, they're gonna be heavily disadvantaged at this point. Then we got top 16. You got the Packers and Steelers. I have almost no emotional feelings about either of these teams in terms of how much they should move up and down right now. Packers kind of just moved out of circumstance. Steelers, they had a game with the Browns. That's about it. That's all I can really say about those. So they're just fine teams that are fringe good teams, fringe bad teams. I don't know really how to describe it to you. I kind of already mentioned about the Packers before. I like them enough. They have good splashes, and they have a low-key good defense, while the Steelers have a really good defense, and it's really consistent, but maybe it's slowing down a little bit, and the offense is being less reliable. That's kind of the lessons of the day for it. Beside the point, I would normally say top 14, and we now get into the top 14, but I'm actually going to put a little asterisk by the Chargers now, because what the hell, dude? What the hell? You lost to the Packers. What the hell? And they're now in the category of like they can go either easily in the third column, or they can go back up. I don't know what to do with the Chargers anymore. They have good stats across the board. They continue to lose, and they're coached fucking terrible. Simple to the point. They're 14 only because I think their roster's so good. I'm kind of giving the Vikings treatment that I gave the Vikings a couple weeks ago. They have a couple more chances. I'm giving them more leeway based on their history and based on their roster than I should. One more loss though, pretty much kills me off of it. Seahawks, sure you lost, but there was a couple bad things that happened in there. So I'm not gonna be too hard on you, but two teams around you did really good. Browns won, and their defense still continues to carry. The Browns are going to be this high until their defense continues not to carry. Simple to the point. Vikings at 12. They look good in loss against the Denver Broncos. Simple to the point. Josh Dobbs looks good. Josh Dobbs looks good. The run game looked good. The offensive line looked good. The only thing I had to kind of critique about was that maybe Josh Dobbs did play a little bit down than compared to the last couple of weeks, but also the defensive line, or sorry, not defensive line, the secondary did not do a very good job covering. Now, maybe that was just, again, me focusing on the Broncos offense rather than the Vikings defense, but it still felt a little wonky. Either way, not too big of a deal. Then we move into our top 10. Before y'all go and say, wow, Joe Burrow's not in there though anymore, so how are they still top 10? They were number 7 last week. I'm someone who doesn't judge a team until I've seen them actually play without their star player that's hurt. So until I see them play without Joe Burrow and evaluate the quarterback situation, then Jake Browning, I believe, I'm not going to judge them. Jake Browning obviously was in for a little bit, but I don't like judging those games because it's weird. It's weird putting a QB middle of the game. Not going to judge it too harshly. Plus, I obviously want to let time to simmer. Obviously, them losing as about 2 scores to the Ravens is pretty bad, especially with all 3 teams above them doing good and winning. So it was natural for them to fall 3, and that was not because of Joe Burrow. Jags +1 purely because of the Bengals' fault fail, but they also beat a divisional opponent. But Jags are in this weird spot where I just don't know if they can compete with any of the top 8 teams. But I think they're better than all the teams below them. It's a weird spot. Dolphins, they won against the Raiders, struggled, but they got it done. They got it done and didn't look too horrible doing it. So it gives me a little bit of hope in the Dolphins and builds up some confidence for me in putting them higher and higher as they win again. Bills, they're a little bit back, but not quite there yet. Obviously, moving above the Bengals just because of circumstance. And then we get the top 6 teams. These are the top 6 teams. 100%. I hope that the divisional round, the conference championship has 4 of these 6 teams because it's 3 AFC, 3 NFC, and I like the ordering I currently have them in. Lions are at 6 and just below the Chiefs purely because I do think the Chiefs have a better overall roster scheme and talent. I think the coaching this season, emphasis on this season, has been in the Lions' favor. And I think the Lions obviously beat the Kansas City Chiefs right in the opening and have been playing to extremely high levels, beating teams and beating them bad. And they've moved up a lot. But I'm nervous to say the Lions are a top 5 team. I'm just hesitating. And I don't think I can punish the Chiefs that badly after all the play they have done, which moves us to number 5. The Chiefs have been really, really struggling the past couple weeks, and it's making me a little nervous for them long term. Granted, they have Patrick Mahomes, they have Travis Kelce. They'll probably be fine for the rest of the season anyway. They'll drop a couple losses like they just did. But it's just getting little chinks in the armor. The defense for the Kansas City Chiefs is what I've been really liking. And even in the last couple games, kind of been some chinks in the armor for the Chiefs defense. The offense has been doing fine enough to win some games and then also just not put up the stats that Patrick Mahomes used to. It's kind of weird. But again, I'm keeping Kansas City at 5 in that top 5 because they're the Kansas City Chiefs. They have a great team scheme, great coach, great players. They just got to put it together. And so that's why I'm still giving the edge of the Lions, but it could quickly change depending on what trajectory each team goes. San Francisco and the Cowboys are kind of in the same category for me. I'm going to slightly put the Cowboys up more because I think them being consistently better than the 49ers. 49ers had 3 rough games, and I think that the Cowboys edged that out by being at least more consistent in being bad. That's good. Lately, they've been doing really good, though, so that's why they're kind of even higher, because last 3 games have been really good offensively and defensively. And probably last 2 games more defensively. So if you look in the last 3 games, all 3 of them have been good offensively. Maybe the last 2 games more so for defensively, if I remember correctly, or at least 2 of the last 3 games. So I'm giving the Cowboys a little bit of edge there above the 49ers. However, the 49ers are playing at an extremely high level, and the Cowboys and 49ers were 2 teams that were potentially way higher than everybody else, besides maybe the Eagles. These were 2 teams that were had some room to give below them and had to lose enough games to bring back down to earth. They were gods that were, looking like they were amazing and then finally kind of brought back down to earth after a couple losses and a couple humbling experiences. But I think they finally built themselves back up. Cowboys didn't move at all for the Panthers win, whatever. 49ers just destroyed the Bucks. Cool. Put up really good stats. Kind of simple to the point there. Baltimore Ravens are the second best team in the NFL, and I will certainly die on that hill right now. Lamar Jackson has never played this consistently good since his MVP days. Obviously, I think his MVP days were a little bit better, but he is now playing back up to the level of what he needs to be, just below the MVP spot. I don't think you can ever expect MVP play from every single season. This is Lamar Jackson we need to see every season, and the Baltimore Ravens are going to look really good. They lost Mark Andrews, so I'm very curious to see how the Ravens will recover and whether that will affect them. Again, I don't punish them for losing a player. Both the Bengals and Ravens lost players. We'll see how it goes from there. But Lamar Jackson's doing good. His receivers are stepping up, and the defense continues. Probably the most consistent defense, maybe outside the Browns this season. Simple and to the point. I love the Ravens. I worry about their health, though. That's simply the only thing that I've worried about. They kind of feel like a Cardinals about 2 years ago. I'm not saying they will end up like that. They just feel like a team that's really getting to this point where maybe their endurance is starting to run out. I don't know that yet, but I'm curious to see. And finally, at the Eagles, number 1, until they lose another game, I will probably not move them down. I was tempted to think about and argue the conversation about the Ravens over the Eagles. However, even after the Eagles' poor play against the Chiefs, I had to note to myself that the Chiefs were literally number 2 last week. And I had to bring myself back down there and said, Eagles just played the other best team, in my opinion, in the NFL and still won and still put up decent stats. Nothing amazing at all, of course. The run game was fine. Jalen Hurts didn't have a good game. Offensive line let up a couple sacks. And even the defense really didn't hold up in the run game, maybe kind of in the receiving game. But, man, the Eagles are the best team until they lose, and then we'll reevaluate. That's simple and to the point how it's going to be. And, by the way, really fun how they almost intercepted Patrick Mahomes' interception, or spike, sorry. They almost intercepted Patrick Mahomes' spike. Really fun, really cool. Beside the point, that's my power rankings. Quickly went through that as fast as I could. I don't know how long this video is. I probably spent a little bit too long in the beginning, but it's roughly like 26 minutes, so it'll be fine. I'll edit the beginnings and because I do have a little bit of extra footage. But beside the point, that was me going through as quickly as I could. I do think that this power rankings, maybe outside of the Falcons, I'm happy with it. I'm personally, if you showed me this, I'd look at it and I'd be like, okay, I agree with this. And I think the Falcons is the one point that kind of feels weird that they're there, but it also doesn't feel inappropriate. The only other things, again, open for conversation, Texans, we've already discussed a whole ton about the Texans recently. They jumped up like 9 spots in the last 2 weeks because of the conversations happening around them and how good they're playing, of course. But who are some of the other teams that are low-key secrets? Who in the top 16 shouldn't be there, and who in the bottom 16 need to be up more outside the Texans? Let's avoid the Texans talk from now on, because I have acknowledged them enough. I have acknowledged them, and I approve of them. But yeah, leave your comments down below. I really liked the interaction we had last video. Hopefully this continues to be just as good. But either way, guys, I'm pre-recording all these videos so I can have a nice, happy Thanksgiving. Of course, you're probably going to be seeing this on a Friday or Saturday. I'm not too sure which day yet. So Thanksgiving will already be well and past, but you probably still have some other festivities to celebrate that weekend. Some people do, some people don't. So if you did, please, or if you do, please have a great Thanksgiving weekend. Enjoy your family. Enjoy some good food. Take the leftovers home. Don't devalue them. Enjoy yourself a little bit. Take a break. Watch some football, and it's going to be amazing. Appreciate you guys for watching. StraightA Dawson, out.